Catch 'em all.
Hi guys, this is Yasser from I-SQL and welcome to this tutorial. If this is your first time landing here, please make sure to subscribe to this channel and click on the notification button so you will be the first one to know whenever I post a new tutorial. And if you like the content of this video, don't forget to hit the like button and share it with your friends. Also, if you have any questions or requests, please make sure to leave them in the comment section below, and I'll be more than happy to answer all of them. So let's go over the table of content of today's tutorial, then we'll start right after that. Please stay tuned. Today we'll be going over the aggregations in SQL Server, and the first function we'll be talking about is sum. The sum function returns the total, net, or sum of a numeric column. Let's go over an example so I can show you how we use the function sum within a query. Okay. Let's start building our query here. Today we're gonna use a different table. It's called sales. Let's see what the sales table has first. So we have an order ID, we have an order date, salesperson ID, store, product ID, product name, quantity of product sold, unit price of product sold, the total price of the product sold, and the territory under which those orders fall under. Now let's say I need to see all the total amount that was sold per year from this table. The way we do that is I need to specify first, use the order date, and I need to turn this order date into a year. Remember from the previous videos, we did actually extract the day, the month, and the year from a date. We will be using the same thing today. Okay, so we will say year, order date, and we will call it year. The next thing we will be doing is we will need to net this column here, or sum it. And in order to do that, we have to write sum and the name of the column that we need to actually sum or net. We will call it net paid. I'm sorry, sold. Now, if I run this query, it will give me actually an error message here. It's going to tell me that the order date is invalid in the select list because it is not contained in either an aggregate function or the group by clause. Now, because I'm trying to group by the year, so I can sum or net the total sold for each year, I will need to bring this year from the order date under a group by function like this. Now, if I run it, it should calculate all the total sold per year. And we will see that down here in the results set. As you can see, in 2013 we sold this much money. or we made this much money in sales. In 2014, same thing. We made this total. 2011 and 2012. Now, as you can see, I don't have my data ordered or sorted by year. What I can do here, I can add an order by at the end, and I can say order by year order date. Once I do that, you guys will see that this data set here will be sorted by the year. So in this case, it should start from 2011 forward. Let's run it. All right, so as you can see, I have everything sorted in an ascending way. Now, let's say from this query or this data, I need to break down each year by territory. So for example, for 2011, I need to see how much money we sold in total per territory. In order to do that, we will need to use this same query actually, and we can add our additional column. Let me see if we have that column in the table, because it looks like I'm getting an error here. Maybe it's called differently. So let me pull the top 5. It is territory. Oh, I have the column misspelled here, so that's why I didn't recognize it. So it's territory. So let me fix it here so it will show as it's supposed to. Okay, now since I added this column to my select statement, I will need to add it to the group by as well, like this. And I like to separate my items when I write my query, so it's easy for me to read. So these are the items under the select statement. This is my from or source table. This is my group by items. And this will be my order by. Now, I don't need this anymore because I just used this query to figure out why I had an error on the territory column. Since I don't need it, let's remove it. Okay, so now let's run this query, and I will show you what I meant by the additional breakdown that we added to this query, to the original query. Okay, so now we have, for the year of 2011, we have a breakdown by territory. Each territory has a total of the amount sold for that year. And this is how actually our result will look like. And we will see the same thing for 2012. It will show you the breakdown by territory and the net for each territory. That was the net that was sold. Same thing for 2013. So the breakdown by territory, and it looks like we have some territories outside of the US. We have Germany, Canada, France, Australia, and the UK. Okay. So this is how you use the function sum when you aggregate in SQL Server. or in SQL in general. Count. The count function returns the number of rows that matches a specific criteria within a query. Let's go over an example so I can show you how to use the function count within a SQL statement. Okay, let's build our query as usual. And let's use the same training table. Sales. Okay, so now let's say I need to check how many products were sold per year and how much money in total we made for all those totals or total orders or products. In order to do that, I need to extract my year from the order date. Then I need to count the product these product IDs are actually assigned and correspond to certain product names. So I'm just going to count these, how many we had for each year for now. So I can show you guys how we count items within a table. So let's run our query. As you can see, this is the total of products sold for the year 2013. This is the total of products sold for 2014. This is the total sold for 2011, and so on. Now, let's say I need to add the sum of the total amount sold within each year. In order to do that, I'll just add sum to my query here. Hopefully that's the name of the table that we have. Let me run it first. Yep, it looks like it's okay. So now I've got the total of products sold and total money we made out of those sales for each year. So again, my data is not sorted. Let's sort it. I have to add an order by. Let's name it the same way we named it within our query, so the query won't get confused. All right, so now we have the data sorted in an ascending way, and it's actually bringing us exactly what we were asking for. So this is how we aggregate using a count and sum all at the same time. Min. The min function returns the smallest value of a selected column based on the criteria that we will specify within our query. Let's go over some examples here, and I will show you how to use the min function within your query. It's still part of aggregations, because when you use min, you still have to use the group by. Let's use our sales table still. Okay, and let's say I need to see for each year when was the very first day an order started or was sold. In order to do that, we need to extract the year from our order date. And we can type in our function min. So we need the min order date. And we can alias it as min order date. Now this is my from, and right after my from, I will need to specify my group by. And when I group by, I have to group by the column that I'm using for the breakdown, which is the year. Now, let's run this query so we can see how the data will look like. All right, so in the year of 2013, the very first day an order was sold was on January 28. In 2014, the very first day an order was sold was January 28. So it looks like it's the same, around the same time between 2013 and 2014. Now in 2011, the first day an order was sold was May 31st. And in 2012, it was on January actually 1st when the first order was sold. Now the same thing, let's see how we can order our data. So I'm gonna use the year to order actually my data. Okay. Now, since we returned the min date and order was sold, let's bring in also do a count of how many products were sold during the year of from 2011 through 2014. So let's see here, let's call it products sold. So for each year, this is the very first day an order was sold, and this is the total of all orders sold within that year. Let's see how now let's net how much money we sold per year. So I'm doing this in purpose for every function that we are going over. I'm trying to repeat previous functions that we saw in different sections of this tutorial, just so I can refresh your memory about how to write them. Alrighty, now let's run this query here. And as you can see, we have our year, which we are using to break down all those these summaries. Here we have the minimum date an order was sold. Over here under product sold is the total count of all the orders sold for that year, and this is the net of money that we collected from all those sales per year. So this is how we use the min function. Max. The max function returns the largest value of a selected column based on the criteria or condition that we will write within our SQL statement. Let's go over one of the examples so I can show you how we use the max. Let's build our query. from, let's use the same sales table. And let's return. What we will be doing is we will break down the cells, and we will be looking for the max date and order was actually placed for each year within the sales database or table, sorry. Okay, so we have year, order date, and let's alias it as year. So there is something that I just did here. This actually word or column name was written in lowercase, and just there's a shortcut on the keyboard that you can use in the event that you don't want to see it that way. You want to have it in uppercase. You don't want to rewrite it because that's gonna waste some time. What you can do is highlight it and do Control Shift and U on the keyboard, and it will automatically switch it from lowercase to uppercase. I like to write my code in uppercase because it actually makes it easy for me to read. So the next one, let's do our max here. Max order date. Now that we built our select statement, we will need our group by. Since we are doing the breakdown by the year, I will need to specify it in the group by. Because if you don't specify it, as I showed you last time, the code will error. Now, if I run it with the group by, it should give me the max date for each year. So let's use our order by. Now, this will give me the max date and order was sold for each year. Let's implement the min all along within this data here, or this query. And let's run our query. As you can see, in 2011, the very first date an order was sold was May 31st of 2011, and the last day of the year when an order was sold for 2011 is December 1st of 2011. And the same thing here for 2012. The first day we made a sale was on January 1st of 2012. And the last day we made a sale in 2012, it was in December 31st, as you can see here. Now let's add the count of products sold for each year. Product ID. Yep. And this will give us the total for each year of how many products we sold. And now let's do the sum of all money we collected from our sales for each year. And let's call it net sold. And as you can see, in my aggregation here, I had the minimum date an order was sold for each year, and I returned the max date an order was sold for each year again, and the total or count of each of all products sold within that year, and the net of all money we made or collected from all those sales per year again. This is how we write our max function. And this is how we aggregate in SQL. Having. The having clause is used actually in SQL due to the fact that the where clause cannot be used within an aggregate function. Let me show you how. Let's build our query. Let's use our training sales table still. So let's say I need to count, or actually I need to know how many orders in total, or how many products in total were sold per territory. Let's do that. And we will need to sum our quantity column here. And we will alias it as total quantity. Now let's group by our territory column, and let's execute our SQL statement. Now we actually received some data in return here, where for each actually territory we received the total of quantity of those orders that were sold. Now let's see how we can implement the having within aggregation, because again, just to as a reminder, we can't use the where clause in this case when we use the aggregation, because if I use, for example, where, let's say, quantity equal, let me pick a number here, or greater than, let's say, what's the biggest number here? Okay, so we have million and we have some that are under million, like these. Okay, so let's do 1 million. Okay, now if I run this, I may not even get anything. And why? Can someone tell me why? If you know the answer, please make sure to write it in the comments of this video, and I will reply to you and let you know if you got it right or no. Let me tell you why. Because we are trying to get a sum in here. I'm going to comment out the where clause and I'm going to rerun my query. So when I did this aggregation, you would think that at least these rows here that are above 1 million should be returned, right? But actually, if you put a where clause, you are targeting the unique actually rows within that table. And there is no way you can find a row that has 1 million products sold for that day, because this aggregation here was actually an aggregation to bring a summary of all orders sold for all those years that exist within that table, not just each order actually. Because as you can see, the total quantity is super low for each row. So there is no way we're going to find something that has a million actually in quantity. And let me run the whole table for you just so I can show you. So here is our quantity column. I'm going to scroll down and you will see that all the numbers here are super low compared to the number million. So this is actually, we can use this at the order level or the date level. But when it comes to aggregating the whole table and every single row within that table, we can be using this where clause. In this case, if I need to return anything that's above 1 million, I will need to add a having. What having will do, it will actually calculate this data and put it in the temporary in the memory of the server. Then it will give us anything where the total of quantity, this column here, is greater than 1 million. So this data that I have here, and we have like 10 rows. This is the total of all products sold by territory across the whole table, no date limitation. Now I'm going to try to return out of all results from this query here, I'm going to return only rows where the total quantity column is greater than 1 million. Let's try that. So instead of the 10 rows, let's see how many we will get back in return. Okay, so we only got 5 because only 5 regions did have a total actually quantity over 1 million. The other ones, they had less than, I'm going to switch the operator to less than 1 million so we can see the other territories. Okay, so Germany, UK, France, Northwest, they all had a total of sales or products that is lower than 1 million. So this is how we use the having function or clause within a SQL statement.